So this is a SIG convener meeting, and you see we are a small group sitting here. And let's see, I have made some notes and set some agenda topics, but let's try to be quick maybe, and then we have an early end of the day. I don't know. Maybe that sounds like an idea. Let me share the screen, because a SIG conveners, and that's wrong. What we could discuss today is our current role as SIG conveners and how it is changing, and how we can maybe work better together. So we are meeting every 8 weeks at the moment. And we have, in the last meetings, it was maybe we hadn't too many topics. There was a time when we had many. So it depends from time to time. And sometimes we then just skip the meetings, which is perfectly fine. But maybe we can find another schedule or another meeting routine and another way of meeting to just work better together. And if you have anything else that we would like to discuss, we can definitely come back to that. And maybe we can start with the second topic, meeting schedule. At the moment, every 8 weeks. If that is not needed, we could maybe decide on meeting every WOLFcon, twice a year. Or if anyone has a topic, like we are all SIG conveners, we know how to organize and to convene meetings. So if we have a topic in between, maybe in between the two WOLFcons, we bring them up in our Slack channel. The person that has the topic sends the doodle poll and convenes the meeting. That's then set up. I'm not sure. I'm really eager to hear what you think. I don't want to cancel these meetings, but on the other hand, if we have just meetings to meet or on our calendar and then cancel them, that doesn't help as well. So open to hear your thoughts. And I see a chat message. No, we have one WOLFcon per year. Sorry, Jangan. Sorry. We have one WOLFcon per year. But we could say we meet once a year for each WOLFcon, or we meet twice a year for WOLFcon and add another meeting virtually, for instance. If we say we want to have some Regelmäßigkeit, regularity, to say we need something in our calendars just to come back together and discuss next steps. But additionally, we could say every time someone needs a meeting, please tell in Slack and then organize the meeting yourself. What do you think?
So I think once or twice a year sounds perfect. I don't know what all of this meeting in general.
So we started to meet because we had some topics such as like what do we do if to moderate? How can we better moderate? If you have people who talk a lot, how can you stop them? So like tips and tricks for your convener work in a way. What is a SIG member? We revisited the SIG charter and said, okay, there is a definition. What is a SIG member? Do we still live with that, or do we want to change that?
Awesome. Well, so to distribute to the SIG, but it was a huge thing, and I think it really went really well. Although it was not as much received, like I don't think the SIG is, in recent actually 25 respondents.
So you just say after all that, for me, once or twice a year stuff perfectly fine and as needed.
Yeah. And I mean, the conference is always a good thing because then we meet in person and then we don't need to organize a lot. The second meeting per year would then either be something that we have in our calendars. It's always the 6th December or another date. I don't know. Or we need to organize that like 4 weeks ahead and then send a doodle poll or something like that. What would you prefer? What do you think is best? It has both its advantages and disadvantages.
Given that we're only looking at once or twice a year, I think, my feeling is that we could, that's the sort of thing where, we kind of in August, and then 6 months later, which would be February, and then we could just say, we're going to have a meeting in August and a meeting in February, and we can say, okay, it's going to be in February. Here are a few possible dates, spread out over maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That can be closing.
Yeah.
Then, depending on how things might change for everybody sitting in the circle, if I commit now to, every 14th of February, that could fall on a Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Even that. Yeah. True.
It's
Yeah.
also going to be.
Yeah. So what I hear is that twice a year is okay. And Danglen, please, if you disagree, please let me know. And what you said, we put them on a schedule in a way that we say it's one when we meet at WOLFcon, and another where we say this is the month that we would like to meet, and then in 4 weeks ahead we would then try to schedule the call. Because otherwise, I think I noticed that now that we do it every 8 weeks, I tend to forget when the next meeting is. So, and then it's all of a sudden tomorrow. And, yeah. So then that's why it's good to have maybe a reminder in our calendars, schedule next meeting. Relevant question. Who is going to do that? Do we want to do that like interchangingly? And we decide in this meeting that next time it's done by me, the next time then done by Maura, and so on and so forth.
That's a good idea. One person. I think we all maybe yes, it was everybody's up to do that anyways, and as you just mentioned, and I think the what you said Danny in chat about we should always have I think the idea first. Sorry. First, I think a couple of meetings a year is a good idea to have them set. Like have just one meeting set in the year, and we can maybe log that to the or connect that to the surveys we have. Maybe we can discuss, especially for new meetings, to let them know what we have. But yeah. So one meeting a year, so my idea is one meeting a year where we have new members join the meeting and explain to them what the survey is and remind the others of the various survey. Maybe talk about how that could be distributed, how work, how you can think of it, something like that would be nice. So one week's meeting a year online would be very, very good. And then every conference, folio is present or most countries should be also set. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And I don't think that, although Martina is perfect to doing this stuff, I think somebody else, can take over the main convenership, or we can do that and change it. So we can have a rotating thing. And that's, rotating, and then, the person who is a SIG convener at the host location would do the in-person.
Yeah.
And then the person who's like, and then like you can rotate with everybody else. That, if you put together the one call, then you're good. You've done it. You've done it until it's ready again.
Oh, Hamburg was last year. It's good that we decide. Yeah, yeah. And maybe like two conveners could do together. If we say it's the home convener and that person asks someone else, yeah, I don't know, but it seems like we are in a way set. This group here has done its job in the past years, and so yeah. No, but that sounds good to me.
I'm going to be sorry. Okay.
Sure.
We should announce this 6 million UPC, and so that we can be less of the plans to. Oh, exactly. Right, we can have sort of a pin post in the Slack too. That would also like point to like the wiki space. I think that's already set up, the wiki space and right, and we could put a thing in wiki that says that this is what the wiki space is going to be like. And if we it's one in wiki space and our Google Drive. And we can, I think we could put it on the front page if we say something that's going to be everything. Yeah, we can have our secretaries.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan, right?
Yes.
And I mean, again, every time someone really needs to talk, we can communicate via Slack. There may be times when we have more topics because a lot of things happen, but sometimes we don't. Definitely, yeah.
There a channel.
Yeah, there is a SIG convener channel.
And there's a little things as well.
It's not sure what just fun. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe, I don't know, yeah. When we meet, we can, I don't know, have nice meetings, sit together in a comfortable way with coffee and so on. And not like a real meeting but rather like a nice coffee table. I don't know. Exchange. Yeah. Yeah.
It's supportive.
Yeah.
Like, how did you grow this? Get together.
Yeah. Because I mean, it was very valuable when we talked about how do you like finish a discussion because you have a next topic to start or something. That's really helpful. And onboarding new members, we definitely want to do that. But yeah. And then the other topic, like our current role as SIG conveners. I have the feeling that it's changing a bit. In a way, I have the feeling, and I would be curious how you feel about it, that in the SIGs, sometimes we are less active as a community. We have maybe many participants, but the group that is actively taking part is getting smaller, is my experience. Maybe you have less people that do the homework that you send around, less people that are available for testing. And that, I mean, I don't want to judge that because people have a lot of things to do and you have your library and your implementation going on and so on and so forth. I just would like to think about ways how we can react to that. So, and I'm not sure whether you have the same impression. And now I have an issue. Do you have? Thank you.
They got
Sorry, Danglen. I hope you can stay. I have a low battery. If we will solve that, and if not, we will come back. Jana is always rescuing everyone. That's true. And I need to use this one, unfortunately. Or can you add? Can you put it here? Put this out. Let's see if that is possible. Does that help? Yay! Thank you. Perfect. It's in my hotel room. Like many other things I've forgotten today. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes. So do you have the same impression, or do you feel completely different? Sighing in the room.
we didn't have a, and so I was sort of like the leader. And so it kind of felt like I'd signed on for a lot more than I was anticipating. But as the basically my job as a SIG convener, as far as I can, is to schedule the meeting, make sure there's an agenda, tell everybody about the meeting and the agenda, run the meeting, and pick on somebody to take notes.
Yeah.
And just make sure those notes are up and accurate. And then also kind of take attendance, because someone else is taking notes, and that makes my life a lot easier. So it's so to me, it's sort of like that tends to be kind of what my job has been. And strangely enough, it feels like a lot of work, especially if people have questions and I can't answer them. And we don't have a PO to answer.
No.
And so we've got to work with it. To me, that's sort of like, that's how it's settled. And basically there's a small, I can serve as a dedicated coach, show it and do things. And there are other people who they don't know about the SIG, or they don't know how to participate, and that becomes kind of so they show up every now and then. But sort of like there are people that and some people will be like there every meeting, and then they'll just disappear with the meetings.
Yeah.
I won't have any idea what's going on. I assume they're all right. No, I don't worry about it. We're all adults. But so that's sort of like, that's how I see my role in the SIG.
Okay. Yeah.
And you do some of the PO work now? Sometimes. But we also, the role of the PO has changed in the New York City. So Patty cycle and she's no longer the product owner. And so we knew. And I sort of went on the Slack channel and said, welcome to Emilio, who is our new product owner. And I got a response from someone like, there are different kind of product. And not entirely certain what that means. It's sort of okay. I'm not there to make judgments or split types. I'm good at both, but I don't do that at work. What's the you can do? Use it over now.
You were the first meeting.
Somebody.
Was there a photo for me?
Yeah, And somebody that did it earlier, went on for like 3 or 4 weeks, and they're like, oh,
The users app is kind of
oh,
quirky because it's the first one.
Yeah.
It was the first app, and so it kind of shows it, yeah.
yeah.
But nothing rising to the point of the project finding a product owner to render it, yeah.
And I have the feeling that we are all, in a way, working all in as conveners in a different way, because it always depends on, do you have a PO who's like giving the agenda and doing a lot around the SIG? Or don't you have a PO, or do you have many POs like in resource access or maybe in metadata management? I think that's different as well. So our job may be different. App interaction is something completely different. And yeah, that's why it's maybe difficult to say this is a specific role of the convener. Maybe for acquisitions, it may be the classical role, right? So organizing, taking notes, and taking next steps, sometimes inviting folks. But yeah, so it's difficult to tell what our role is, like what I asked. But nevertheless, I have the feeling that it's changing, and that we have, maybe because we have more and more things to do, more and more things to, because I have the feeling I lose all the threads. So we need more communication between the different teams. We have more and more teams because more and more apps. And it's more difficult than in the beginning to say, we need to align on that. It was then just 2 people meeting. And today it's, I don't know, we tend to forget even people. And I have the feeling the POs have even more on their plates because they are responsible not only for one area, but for multiple. And then, yeah, I don't know.
I think the project is pretty progressive, right?
Yeah.
Same topics or kinds of discussions as in the beginning. We do not have to talk about how the users are added to the we have that settled, and we are now at the point where we have to discuss really specific topics, and not many people do have an opinion or have the idea or the feel maybe also that they can say something about it. So I wonder if there's something that we as conveners can do to involve and that will also change through the 6 and some things are newer and have still these basic things to figure out, and then there are the older ones like users access or user management or users management and so on. So yeah, I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah, but maybe it's in the end a decision app by app, because I was thinking, so for instance, we reduced our meeting times. We meet every 2nd week in ERM because we do have less topics to discuss because we are progressing in a way. And Danglen just says in chat, I want to note that she's having trouble getting the PO to let her know what he would like to discuss to make the agenda available. So yeah, that's tricky as well, because people are waiting. I mean, we heard that in ERM as well, that they said, okay, it would be nice to have the homework days in advance. Yes, but it needs to be ready to be circulated. And yeah, if everyone's very busy, then that's maybe sometimes not possible. Yeah.
And very helpful figures way back. But I was so hesitant and got the recommendation not to consent. I always have these 2 meetings just in case, because people have that on their schedule. But now that the project is progressing and we had really struggle. I felt a lot of meetings to fill the agenda with meaningful topics. I've scheduled discussion rounds so that implementers can come and discuss their topics, in an environment where there's well-meaning and everyone wants to talk. But it's really hard to get this environment going and to have people to come and contribute. So, but when we are in the things discuss, then everything's fine, but everyone wants to talk. So I feel the past as well, but so someone wants to, then people are definitely silent and can go to meeting in 15 minutes. Hard not to reflect that on the whole program and say, oh, nobody wants to participate in. And then you speaking, right? That makes everyone like. And I think we have to be very careful from a marketing and relations standpoint to be, and in the six, there are the people who are using the software. They're not people who decide to implement the software, and the acceptance of the people who are using the software is really important. And what I want to say about I don't have a point. Well, I mean, it's definitely a difficult thing for me to keep everybody on track. Because that's not just keeping everybody from showing up at the meeting and redirecting it. Because that's, that's part of what you do, but it's also making certain that people show up and getting people to kind of contribute. There have been times when, when I've had two people dominate a discussion, and I will absolutely forbid them. I will not allow them to say no because I want to hear from the other people in this meeting. Do you have an opinion? And I will let that silence go. I will let it out, and everyone will sit there wondering who's going to say some things and put this terrible awkwardness to bed. And that's just when I'm getting really frustrated. Kind of when I'm kind of at the end of my tether. So, okay, we've had two people talking. Let's hear from somebody else. Does anybody else have anything to say? Okay, my channel is open. What'll often happen is that people will say, oh well, I don't know a whole lot about it, but this looks like a good idea. That's fine. That's all I do. And to the last point, when I had no PO, I would ask the people in the group, do you want, what do you want to discuss? And there were points when I would, I would ask for, what do we need to talk about? And, at that point, people were very interested and they would have things to say. And, as things got very, as that part got less and less, people didn't have as much they needed to discuss. Then they would, that was when we shifted from once a week to twice a month. Because we didn't have as much to discuss when we started canceling meetings. So, but as far as as if you do that, then maybe the product owner will also want to get involved. And because if you start doing this without product, they can say, wait.
Yeah.
I have something.
Yeah, or another way to say, okay, if I don't hear anything or if I have no topics until the day before, then I will cancel. So decide whether you want to have the talk or not. I don't know. Yeah.
And I think they're structured. So I mean, it comes with importance of and which is already discussed, I mean, the ice nature, but there's, you know, stuff driving our discussion. We're doing a lot of creative development and such. And I think what biggest change, which still need to, but because we added natural meaning to the West Coast, and kept morning Germany. So, and but still kept it weekly. So I'm being first, second, first, third, Monday. And but we don't single. We have topics on like haven't immediately haven't been first immediately before we go and you know find things out and figure out Christian stuff too. So I think that was different. And but we also have something we pretty well. So we do labs and that sort of thing.
Is that if you don't understand?
No, yes, this is from the SIG actually, not just because we asked topics from people and people volunteer and we actually do the following. Make sure for just like the blood resistance thing, making sure we were discussing the topic of something first with the TV, make sure they're there. But I also find the token meeting seems to be actually easier than the one things and solve it. I just think that it's a lot of work and there's something that happens at the start or whatever.
I'm very happy to have somebody who can take over with me. Yeah, it can be so things. But that is so important. I don't think there's a token beyond many convenient situation means people are part of focus. At least I know. But what I want to say is that how involved the government, you know, the topic was, you know, I suppose, and also a number of, you know, I also continue to try to contribute my point of view on features as for the GDE, you know. So but I can and try to maintain then the how's it called that the cultural not as focused and it could dominate the agenda with my topics because there is nothing nothing to say. I of course topics and also the post coming in, but I think they're mainly working on the backlog, so probably do not have to do because then everything that I want to know about the future already set or something.
No, but please finish.
Yeah. Discussed, but then my job description, as you put it in the beginning, is not that, right? My role is not to be a PO and bring forward topics, but to convene, to do them with formal stuff, you know? Yes. So if that's changing, then we need to talk again, because then I cannot do this role. It would take too much time.
And then we would need to change like the SIG convener charter or whatever, or for instance, need a new description for this in between role that you would have then. And again depends on what PO you're working with, because sometimes it's just necessary that the PO is there because he's doing then the development or talking to the developers. And if you discuss things without him or her, maybe you need to discuss it twice because it depends on the different SIGs, I think. I'm not sure whether, for instance, for ERM, it wouldn't necessarily make sense if Owen's not there because he would be interested and maybe have other questions than I have because I'm not the PO. I'm not deeply enough in the topic. And I think what you said is maybe then that's really some agreement with the PO to say, do we want to do this together? Then I can help you. Or am I just sticking to my role? But again, you have a different SIG with multiple POs and not just one. ERM is there just different. Yeah.
Both functional fields are greater, but the time to do it is something less as we do with the paycheck and the first implementation issue. But I mean, I Duke was carried in the bottom wallet in the bottom process. And that's another thing, you know. If he's here,
I'm sometimes wondering whether I mean, I have the feeling, for instance, in acquisitions, it was different when we were such a small group because you were forced to talk more. You can hide behind 40 people. Like that's easy. And do we need to find other ways to discuss things? Because there are people who don't talk that much, but who express themselves in a different way. And that's not necessarily a language issue, but just a personality issue. So I'm not sure whether we need additional ways. And then again, I think it shouldn't make too much more work because we're all so over. I don't know.
Don't mind how I've been doing it a couple of months now and nobody's ever stayed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. When everybody upstairs, yeah, so far nobody's taken us a time, but we always stay after just to see if anybody wants to give input.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great idea, but nobody's taking some on it, so. Especially talk about one without schedule. Yeah. It's scheduled. I think it was open. Yeah, so this is the unstructured thing we need to talk about. And usually somebody's gonna come in and get, hey.
Yeah.
We always fall back on the topics and we've done that mentioned, it's not always easy to know exactly what our agenda is. Students never know what he's going to talk about. And we don't always know what he needs to talk about at the time. But we always have our important topics to fall back on. Yeah. And those are always, sometimes they can be 5-10 minutes, sometimes they can take up an entire hour to one of us. And there's a long stuff. We will never know that box. Yes. Yes, yes.
That's what we do in ERM as well. We have an implementers list, and if there's nothing else, we can just address these topics.
And I like this. You know, when we first started meetings, it's all very theoretical. It's very hard to wrap your mind around a theory they're trying to get you to walk through when they're first, you know, when they're first designing acquisitions or anything part for you. It would be very hard to try and picture exactly what they were asking you to describe. Now that we've implemented, the conversation is very different. It's not a theoretical, it's hey, need this.
But I don't know how you see that, but for these implementers topics, you need the PO, right? Because yeah. So.
Like we had a there was a really, really good meeting on situation relief, and do we need to find another way of, I mean, I do not question the implementation, don't get me wrong, it is absolutely perfect, and implementers can come and be informed and get the sorrows of their beds, like that. That maybe it and we're thinking all about implemental topics. I think at least it has an implemental topics list, right? That it should be definitely to come together, the implementation and the implemented topics. In this part is still the best place to start implemental topics in the SIGs. It's how because
Maybe that depends on the topic, because sometimes it's really functional. But in other situations where we talk about like in practice use of things and what we have as experiences, the implementers SIG would be a good place.
The structure is still good, right? Having the SIG for very specialized conversation and then giving the SIG for the more broad.
I think the implemented SIG tends towards system librarian topics. So, I mean, that example with cert rules was kind of like, okay, you're a systems librarian, how do you deal with this kind of thing? And I mean, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that seems to be where those topics seem to drift, and there is overlap, but it comes from a systems librarian, somebody configuring it point of view. So, yeah, although we have a sysops SIG as well, although that tends to get more technical and icky with how underlying things are configured and run and you know.
We have how to use the surveillance, how to more training sessions.
I just thought for app interaction, and that was what was brought up in one of our recent meetings. It might make sense to interact more closely with the implementers, because when we talk about UX UI topics, for instance, you have the people who have implemented Folio right there. But then that depends on the SIG. So if we say we discuss implementers topics, please visit us, or do we then talk in implementer SIG? That's again a topic, right? Usually the implementers are in the different functional SIGs and then discuss the implementers topics there instead of raising them in implementers. I'm not sure.
SIG notice things that are more interested in. But then even during this, we're going to discuss it. And so,
That's true.
and if it's in a specific area, they almost always reach out area. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
so that means in the system people, maybe that's it. It's the system people. Something.
Yeah.
Is also one of the things. Do we there is, I always thought not among the tasks, but the task of the people who are saying for deciding who wants to implement Folio, and you are the person who should be the circulation person. So go to check out the Windows access same place. But if that is my role, then differently. I don't know.
No, I don't think so too.
But I think not more large street, because I am the feeling people are running from the city.
Well, I think it's better. It's been a lot. I've been on groups since they start. That's what I've been on. So I became us
Yeah.
And so I'm involved in this for many years now. And so, this is
Yeah, there was also the effort that I think came out of product council to have kind of an onboarding presentation to new libraries that, welcome to Folio and I don't, my hesitation was I don't think it's the SIG convener's job to do that. I think there's a more project-wide role for saying, this is the structure of how we make decisions. If you're looking for a users group, this is it. And you have to, and this is how you get involved.
And then we are back at the passiveness. I was on that onboarding group and I needed to step down because I have so much on my plate as well. But there was no way. We were a very small group of people dealing with this topic, and there was no way in advertising this so that more people would join. And because I think everyone has so much to do, and another SIG is, oh my God, that's another meeting per week. Because I think the idea was great to say every new member then gets an orientation. You have developers, go to that SIG, or you are interested in acquisitions, go to that SIG, or so on and so forth. And what we wanted to do is let people know that Folio needs activeness, like taking part, funding, spending time, resources, developers, meets, whatever. And so, but at the moment, the SIG isn't meeting because not many members, and yeah.
That's maybe because if you don't have a agenda item coming from your people or other people, canceling meetings will lead to not having meetings ever again, because people do not have them like, okay, it's always cancelled, it cannot be an important thing. So yeah, so that is my hesitation on cancelling and maybe rescheduling, but then the idea from the beginning to maybe not have as many meetings, so you have 2 meetings a week, so yeah, it would be awesome.
And I had that feeling too. Every time I canceled a meeting, I thought, okay, obviously you have nothing to talk about, but I was a bit reassured because everyone said, okay, if one meeting less is a good meeting, so we shouldn't enforce meetings just to have them, because everyone else has enough to do. Yeah.
It's really complicated.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nearly impossible, I would say. Why? Yeah. We have another message from Danglan, because I can see the frustration really, and what she's saying is that you have the feeling, Danglan, that you're not doing a good job, but what you're doing, you do a good job. But providing an agenda, that's again, whose task is it to set the topics? So, and sometimes maybe as SIG conveners, we don't need to feel responsible for everything. If there is no agenda, then there is no agenda. And then we're just doing the organizational part in canceling. And I think what we talked about earlier, to say, if until then there is no message back from my PO or whoever gives the topics, then I can cancel, and that's not my responsibility. I don't know how often do others ask their POs, because that's what Danglan says. You're not sending multiple messages to your PO. Sometimes you need to ping people again. I mean, quite often you do. But if you need to do that every week, multiple times, or twice a week, multiple times, I'm not sure whether that's our job.
They're sort of, I would see them as sort of like, well, They're the ones in charge of the SIG. So I always will ask them first. Do you have it? And thankfully, the two product owners that I've dealt with have been pretty quick to respond. And they would say, yes or no. But yes, I have something, it is, or no, I don't. If we go to the point where I can then ask the members, do they have anything they want to discuss? And then, and if they do, then there's no meeting. And if we're looking at and again, if I go like, a month and a half without a meeting, then there's going to be a meeting, and it's just going to be unstructured. There's going to be no specific. There's going to be no specific agenda, but we can talk about whatever kind of problems or maybe little wishes that have been afraid to. They've been afraid to voice. And so it's for me. It's like if we don't. I mean, I do it, and I also feel very sort of like. I also feel like I'm not getting it done if we don't have an agenda. But it's taken me a while to get to. If that's the case, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's a thing that you have to kind of get comfortable with. It's like this thing isn't being done, but it's not my fault.
exactly. And I mean, I think that's a very good way and very, very structured way, and it's very foreseeable. So even if a PO knows that by then, if he gave no topics, then he's out of control. Maybe that will motivate to give earlier topics. I think it's a good note that you say after so and so much time, you do have a meeting, and then talk about things, maybe without a PO agenda. But yeah, I really much like that.
But with that things typed in, if we don't hear from the PO, then basically, if they show up at the last minute and say, "Oh wait, got something," then great, they'll do that. They'll do that next week.
Yeah.
So that, so it's like I try to have this sort of thing put to bed by the end of the day, 2 days before. So it's like the user management meeting is on a Wednesday. I try to have something by the end of the day Monday, so that no matter where you are, this message will show up in your mail during the workday.
That's a good point as well. Yeah, because of time zones, sometimes it's very short notice if you send it in the evening or whenever, right? Yeah.
Then this once brought up with some POs, and they said, if you have anything to discuss, we will come to you. And I put up a list and said, hey, here's here. And I think I will, and with a design of dates, especially. And if there's nothing, then cancel. Because sounds really do that, especially in the full talk meeting that we have the secretaries that will be also think that.
Yeah.
So now
Okay. So we have 1 minute. Any last thoughts? Yeah, we wanted to finish early. It didn't work. But it was a good discussion to my mind. So thanks a lot. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Danglan. Bye.